Welcome to the Love That Guy podcast. We are your hosts. I'm Ronnie Gene Blevins.
And this is Brendan Reynolds.
He got third, all for billing at the end of each picture. That don't really mean much, he would say with a grin. But he held my hand tight when he poured his name out. Only 4 or 5 names down below Errol Flynn.
We are the show that celebrates the journeyman actors, the actors we all know and love, and even though we might not always know their names, we inevitably see them in film and television and think to ourselves, love that guy. Our guest today is an actor whose work I have recently become obsessed with. He made his bones with a 7-year run playing Juice on the massively popular show Sons of Anarchy. He crushed it as supervillain Shades in Disney's Luke Cage. He broke our hearts wide open and showed his raw humanity as behind-the-scenes Gene in Netflix's True Story. And he's recently been nominated for an Independent Spirit Award for his portrayal of Yousep in the fantastic Emily the Criminal. Please welcome to the show my newest acting hero, the great Theo Rossi.
Wow, that was
bad.
That was unbelievable.
Hey,
that was
man.
great.
It's all true.
You got it. No, thank you. Yeah, I guess so. That was cool.
Yeah. How's it going, bud?
It's going with or without me. It's going. But yeah, it's all good. I'm get to be home for a minute, which is great. And I've been cleaning out chicken stalls all day. So this is a nice reprieve for a moment.
Wow, man. Wow. So you're back in Austin, and then I presume you're back next weekend for the Spirit Awards.
Yeah.
Right?
I was supposed to be there today to present at something, but I didn't. So so I'll be there for the Spirits, and then I'll be in and out.
Congratulations,
I was just there.
man.
Yeah, congrats.
I think to myself, like that Facebook quote, like when Justin Timberlake says, you know, $1 million is cool, but you know what's cooler? $1 billion. I think Academy Awards are cool, but you know what's cooler? The fucking Spirit
That's
Awards.
the cool kid award.
I mean, what is that? I mean, Mark, you're up against like Mark Rylance.
Yeah, it's cool. Trevante is my favorite actor too. I'm gonna watch Bruiser tonight. So it was cool to see that. Yeah, man, listen, it's so crazy. I was out there the other day for the brunch, and like you see all these people that you just really love and these filmmakers that you love, and you know the deal, right? I mean, you never know this business. What does William Goldman say in his book? Like, nobody fucking knows anything. Like, that's the one thing you can guarantee, is that no one knows anything. And you don't know what's going to work, and you don't know what's not going to work. And you do these things and think they're going to be fucking the greatest thing and change your life, and nobody sees it. And then you do these things and you think, I don't know if anybody's going to watch this. And then it becomes something else. You don't know. So you kind of just, you're happy when anybody sees the work and kind of talks about it. And so with this Spirit thing, it's just awesome because it gives you the opportunity to like do it again.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's also like this. I feel like you've been in this rarefied air these last few years. And I always thought you were great. You know, you worked because you're great, and great actors work, and it all makes sense. Something has happened these last, maybe it's post-COVID. I don't know, these last 3 or 4
mushrooms.
years.
It's always mushrooms.
The mushrooms. I love. I want to hear more about that. But I feel like it. I guess I'm curious to know, like, transitioning out of Sons of Anarchy, because that had to be just such a massive part of your artistic identity. And what was it like? Like transitioning out of that, was like, or kind of shedding the skin of Sons of Anarchy?
I've always tried, like, I mean, I started as an extra, like I didn't even know. And like, even before that, I had no idea, like acting. I never thought like I would make money and do this. Like, even getting into it, I was like, all right, well, let's see what happens here. Right. But like, the one thing I knew was that no matter what, I was going to always move forward. I was going to try really fucking hard to be the best at whatever situation I was in. So if I had one line on Malcolm in the Middle, I was going to do the best to do that. And if I had one scene and then, an independent film, or, it was never about the money. It was always about the role. And the role was so far above everything else that it had nothing. It was the character. It was like, oh, even if it was a bad movie, it was the character. What can I do with this person that I'm given the opportunity to do something? And then when Sons came, my entire life shifted. Like, I didn't understand what was happening because I was like, holy shit, like people like know who you are and they like your work. And I wasn't in the first 3 seasons. I didn't really do much on the show. And then he started writing this character and fuck, like everything changed. And I was like, and I was kind of finding myself as a person. So everything was all happening at once. And then, but there was also, you know, listen, I just talked to today alone. It's Sunday. I talked to Dayton, who played Unser, and Kim, who played Tig. I mean, we all talk still all the time, but it was also a very strange time in the world, like, because that was when TV was really kind of taking over. The Sopranos and Breaking Bad and like all these things were kind of taking over and being like high level. And the jump from TV to movies wasn't as large and difficult in a way, but also it was a show that was on weekly. It was for 7 years. It wasn't like a binge show. So it was like we were in people's lives for that long. So it was all consuming. When that ended, I was like, okay, cool. Like, now what? Like, now what happens? And I did these 2 films. And I went right to Luke Cage, which was wildly different, but kind of also similar. And again, it just gave me the opportunity to just do something completely different, which is really my main goal when I take roles. Like, how different can I make this from anything I've done?
Right.
So it's just been kind of, it's been really interesting since 2008 when Sun started. But like you just said, I feel like personally, and this is really strange for people to hear because I've had people say something when I say it, I don't feel like I even learned to act until I did True Story. And I'd been acting for 22 years before.
Wow. Yeah.
Okay. And what I mean by that is like, I've studied every single technique. I've, you know, from fucking Meisner to Stanislavski to, you know, I went to Strasberg. I've always known, but when I say I didn't really know how to act, I mean, like, I don't think I put it all together. I think I knew it all. And then I finally think I put it together. And since then, it's been better for me personally. Because I think that my life also, you know, we're on the ranch here. I got my boys, I got the 5 and 7-year-old, my wife, like things are different in my life. Things are different in, you know, just in my whole orbit. And I think that it really served the work. And then the other thing that became the most important was it only became about the work. I don't care for anything else. It's only about the characters and the work. All the other stuff is nonsense.
Yeah. So I know that process is kind of this elusive thing, and it's, and, you know, it runs the spectrum, the degree in which artists want to talk about their own process.
Yeah, of course.
But what does that mean? You put it all together. I think I know what it means in a broad sense. Like you could probably I know you could. You've crafted these great performances, but in the past, but maybe it was at the effect of really architecting it and like rehearsing these moments where, as maybe when you showed up on True Story, which you speak of doing something totally different, that was totally different.
Different. Yeah,
so maybe this is like it was.
No, I think that what I came to realize is that there is no formula. Every situation is different, and you have to understand the situation you're in. And you have to be okay with knowing that the situation is different. Now, like you, I think the reason why when actors, so this is kind of 2 sides of a coin for me. I think like my stomach turns sometimes when actors talk about acting, but at the same time, I thank God that they did when I was younger, because if I didn't have them talking about acting, I don't think that I would have learned how to act. So thank God I heard Jack Nicholson talk about it. Thank God I, you know, heard Daniel Day-Lewis briefly talk about it. Thank God that there were these behind the scene DVD things where people would talk about what was happening in a scene. So while I understand, like Brando said, that it was like repulsive when actors did that, I get that. but at the same time, I'm so thankful for it. So I always think of me, the extra who was trying to figure it out. And what I've come to learn when I say I put it all together was that there is no direct formula.
Right.
I have things that I do for sure. There is a standard playbook when I get in. And then it changes after I get the foundation done. But what I mean is that it all changes for each one, because some are deeper, some are more complex, some are more complicated, some you don't have time. Sometimes you're starting a movie in 2 days or a TV show. Sometimes you have a too much time. So you can get, you can kind of too much. So I think that there is no right, wrong, or indifferent. It just works for you. So if someone was to sit there and speak about their process, for lack of a better word, I think that it's unfair to the person listening because it's their process. So whatever I'm going through in my life, whatever I'm doing physically for the character, whatever my thoughts are, whatever is, no one else can ever repeat that because they're kind of mine. And then, so no two people would ever play a character the same. No two people would ever approach a character the same. So I think that for me, where I say I put it all together is Paul Newman said it takes 25 years to get comfortable.
Yep.
For me, it took 22.
Yeah, it was pretty close.
Yeah. I feel what you're saying, man. It does seem like, like I do a lot of the external work, and then all the other kind of more like the voodoo or the the supernatural, whatever. Like I get the foundation first, like you speak of, but I have recently, because honestly, I've been just in my own process. I've been feeling like kind of leveling up this, and I've been inspired by
I love your
contemporaries like you.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? And I see the shift you made. And so I've been just I even took a look at this. Nick Cage talks about this nouveau shamanic, and it's all about the subconscious, right? And it's like having this relation, whether it be your subconscious or your unconscious. The idea being that your subconscious knows everything, So and
so true.
So you can there's a technique of writing letters to your subconscious, and it being revealed, the answers being revealed to how to play a particular role in your dreams. I dig all that shit, man.
Oh, me too, man. And you know me, I mean, that's why, I run every day. I'm addicted. If there's one thing that I have an addiction to, it would be, because it's an addiction to my quiet time, to myself. So every morning I run, or I try. I think I've missed maybe a few days in the last, I don't miss much, but I do 5 to 7 miles with no music, no nothing. And I do that it's where I figure out everything. It's where I kind of the repetitive nature of it. It makes me, it's always where I go, oh fuck. Okay. Yep. There it is. And I do that. And between that and those other quiet moments, those truly quiet moments, which is usually the 10 minutes before you fall asleep, or when you're in the shower, those moments where you go, oh yeah, okay. And that's where you're going to find that subconscious stuff. And again, you have to be willing to go to that place. A lot of people aren't willing to kind of do these, some people just go, hey, just fucking read the lines and do this. And the truth is, that's incredible. I remember Daniel Day-Lewis said once, hey, everybody always asks why I do all this stuff, why I do it. I'm just not that good of an actor. I need to do this to make it work. Right. And I thought that was wonderful, because I've worked with actors, Ron Perlman's the master of it, where between takes, he can talk about something totally different.
Right.
Completely be somewhere else and be tell a joke, and then they're rolling, and he's hold on, I'll tell you in a minute, and then they're action, and he becomes someone completely different.
Crazy.
And then they call cut, and he's oh, so I was telling you about, and I'm how the fuck did he do that?
He's such a pro.
Yeah,
he's such a pro. Where me, I'm rocking in the corner, I'm I gotta
right.
roll into this.
Yeah.
And again, I've gotten better, but I think that, to me, the eyes never lie. I can't tell you how much I watch people, and it's not their fault that I'm I just don't believe that. And I don't believe it because I don't think they believe it.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's not their fault. I think that there's so many things that can go wrong in like filming. We know this. You and I did a movie like it. You know what I mean? Where there's so many fucking things that can go wrong that if you just believe where you are in it, that's the best you can do for yourself, because even if you're saying nothing, your eyes are going to tell you everything.
100%. 100%. And it does seem like in True Story, these directors, was it Steven and Hanel, the directors?
Yeah.
They give you the space for this performance, right? Almost like, and I don't know if that was all that was on the page, but you got this beautiful space and they honored what you created,
Yeah, my closest friend was the showrunner, and when it all came up and my buddy Eric Newman produced it, I was like, hey, listen, I'm gonna I see this guy, a certain way because I've met similar people.
Right.
And I was like, I have this idea, and they're like, okay. And I was like, so I'm gonna try this thing and we'll see if it works. And again, it's circumstances that made that happen. It was like we were in lockdown. We couldn't, the show had gotten shut down twice, so we couldn't really leave the hotel. We would get our groceries delivered. We would get the only time you can leave is to like go for walks or go for a run. You were encouraged never to leave, because if the show got shut down again, we all had like hard outs. So for 3 months, I didn't see my family. I didn't, see friends. I didn't see anyone. And again, for Gene, that really fostered that character because he needed that, like for me. So I got to really dive into that space, which I don't know if the circumstances weren't there that I could have done. Like if I was doing that prep from here, I just don't see it possible. Do you know what I mean? So it's always about timing and circumstances. Same thing happened with Emily, in its own way, and anything else since. I've had these like really cool kind of circumstances that have occurred that have really helped in the character I was playing.
Right, right. And do you feel in competition with yourself, like because you know based on your own gauge, and based on how people are responding, that these two movies you've done, these two roles you played, have been just so extraordinary. And do you feel like, oh shit, do you have to do you have to recalibrate, okay, moving forward, how is this is the new standard, so how do I move forward?
No, I think that we're in a fortunate space, a few others, where like I always look at like Defoe and like certain actors that I go, they can do no wrong. Like the movies might be bad, the TV show might be bad, but like it's never going to hang on their head because, they're just doing what they need to do. Right. So my thing is like, we live in such a different world now in the entertainment business where you just got to keep working, right? You just got to work and work and work. And then you have to take this role that a lot of it might not be on the page, or all of it might be on the page, like in a case like Emily, or, or Gene, or it might not be at all, but you just got to keep working, because you don't know if that like independent film that you did for no money and like, was in this strange location, but next thing you know, that producer's doing another movie 2 months later, and it, that changes your life, right? It's like, but if you just keep working, it's not the old days where like, unless you're like the guy on the poster and the movie loses like $150 million, like that's kind of could be detrimental. But it just doesn't happen for someone like me, thank God. You know what I mean? Like, it's like I can take all these big swings and these wild chances, and I'm never going to be like, oh, I can't do that. It's like, my Bernthal and I talked about this. It's hard when you're worried about like when you want to get roles all the time, when you're always like fighting for it for so long. And then when people offer them to you, you're like, yeah, I'll do it. Right. Because it's like, you're so used to not doing that, and you got to kind of be careful, I guess. But at the same time, it can never truly impact you, because look, some of the greatest movies of this year I haven't seen. You know
Right.
what I mean? It's like, it's just different now. So
Right.
it's like our job now is just to work and to
Yep.
continually work, because you get better. You get, you expand your reach to whoever. And I'm not as when it comes to the roles, I think that I can find something in everything. Now, don't get me wrong. I mean, I definitely say no to a lot of things. But it's like I only do that if it's something that it's like I've done that already.
Right.
I've done that already. There's nothing I can do different with that. It's too similar to something. I'm like, it's like if somebody offered me like, a biker thing right now. Like, it's like, I'm not going to do that. That'll
Right.
always be compared to Juice and,
Right.
or a Marvel thing. Like, it's like, I'm not going to, unless it's like wildly different from something I've done. And I think that for me, it's really always about the character. It has nothing to do with the name on the page. It has nothing to do with the people. Of course, you want to work with top tier directors. You want to work with top tier writers, and you want to work with great actors. But the truth is, you don't know. Some of the greatest actors I've ever worked with, nobody's ever heard of.
Right.
Right.
That's
yeah.
what the show's all about.
Yeah.
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 And listen, and some of the actors that people think are the greatest in the world I've worked with, not necessarily the greatest. So it's like, it's like that. The reason being is this thing's like this whole business is like, are you familiar with like the inner workings of the mafia?
Not
A
really.
little bit.
Okay, a little bit, right?
Yeah.
You know how like a guy gets made or somebody
Yeah.
gets made?
It's his button.
It's yeah, and then you're a hang-arounder or you're a prospect if it's a
Connected
motorcycle
guy.
club, or you're kind of like, he's one of us,
Right.
like in Donnie Brasco. And then sometimes the business picks you and it makes you. And then if you're made, you can move up to underboss or
Right.
consigliere, or, and then maybe even sometimes be the boss. And then eventually you might get whacked. But it's like, the thing is like the business makes people sometimes. Like they say,
Right.
you get picked,
You're
but
chosen.
you never know when that's going to happen.
Yeah.
You never know if you're going to be picked. And there are a lot of actors, great actors, who were never picked.
Yep.
Who were just fucking phenomenal actors who just never, for some reason, never got like that super push. You know what I mean? And
we all need allies, right?
Right. You need allies.
Politics,
because it's not a business to do alone. I was just speaking to one of my good friends, and to me, he's one of the greatest actors that I've ever watched, is Bill Fichtner. Right? Okay. It's fucking phenomenal.
So great.
And Bill will always say, like, I just wasn't picked. Bill's had an extraordinary career, but he never got like that thing. Right. And I think that you never know. It's so random. You just don't know when it's going to happen or if it's going to happen. All you can continue to do is do the best work in every single role that you're given.
Yeah.
And the best work for you, not for other people, for you.
Yeah. 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 And it does. I love Bill. And I think that is definitely a subjective thing, right? To most people, his career is fantastic, and one that they would want.
Fantastic.
But I do think that there's this idea of ambition can breed malcontents at times, and that's sort of the trap of ambition. But one thing I noticed about you, and again, my we're new friends. We had we did a movie together this last year, and but so a lot of what I perceive of you is just like the perception of a fan, but it seems to me where although you're driven, you are enjoying the process. It seems you're happy.
I absolutely, I was just saying this with another friend when we were at the Emily premiere in New York. I absolutely love everything between action and cut. I love to act. Great. Like, I absolutely love it. I love the tightrope walk. I love what can happen. I love the surprises of it. I love the chaos. I love not knowing. And I love the spontaneity of it when it's done right.
Yep.
If I could live in that space forever, I'd be so happy, but that's not the reality, right?
Right.
The business is very different. Where I've gotten happier, I should say, or more content, is I've gotten more content in my life.
Right.
And meaning that nobody wins in this game. No, like you can't win this game. Once you realize you can't win, there is no trophy. You're not going to win. Even if you think you've won, even if you get something and go, fuck, here I am, I'm at the top. You're not. I've read, I mean, I just finished Nick Nolte's book. I just finished, Paul Newman's book. I finished Betty Davis's book. I just read fucking Bernie Brillstein's. You're talking about giants who never felt like they won. Such giants that here I am, some of these books 30 years later, 20 years later, 40 years later, reading these books, and they felt the same exact way. And these are like Mount Rushmore figures.
Yep.
You can't win. So once you realize there's no winning, you take a lot of pressure off yourself.
Yeah.
To just enjoy the actual doing of it.
Yeah.
And you go, this is fucking cool that we can sit here on this, talk about this. We can go do a cool movie. We can go do a cool thing. And hey, do you want to do more? Sure. Do you wish it was bigger? Sure. But none of it's in your control.
That's right.
You don't control who does the poster. You don't control what kind of music is in it. You don't control when they release it. You don't control the bad behavior of other actors on set or what's going to happen. You don't control.
Or the takes they choose. The biggest problem, or the takes they choose.
Or the takes they choose. You control nothing.
Yeah.
All you control is what you do. And once you're aware of that, you go, it kind of takes this giant fucking weight off you, and you go, hey, I'm doing all I can. You know what I mean? If you have an audition and I would drive my wife nuts because I would do these tapes and I would do like 65 fucking takes. And she's like, what are you doing? She's like losing her mind. She's like, and I'm like, no, my shirt was, I can't do that. And I realized that that's what I needed to do because I'm trying to do what I think is the best. And then now when they receive it, the fuck do I know what they're going to do with it? It's not on me.
Yeah.
That's it's gone now. I've done my part. And I think that even when I've produced a bunch of movies, we're about to produce a bunch more. We have a couple lined up. What I realize is even that, where you think you have control, you have no fucking control because there's always someone to answer to.
Right.
There's always who's ever putting it out, who's doing this, who's doing that. So there's no, once I realized that, once I was really conscious of that, I think that played a big part in making me way better as an actor.
Wow. That's it's pretty freeing, man.
Yeah.
It's pretty freeing. Do you go ahead? I'm sorry.
No, I was thinking the same thing. Like not being the star gives you freedom, to be more about a craft and less about this ego trip that people get on with it all.
Yeah, well, there is I mean, ego is a big part of it, and there's also a lot of times the leads have to be the steady hand, and it's I mean, it's really why we kind of started this show is because I would get, and I've said this before, but I would work with these people and get asked, well, how is the number one on the call sheet, and I'd be like, pretty awesome. But also, Theo Rossi was there, or Max Casella was there, or Bill Fichtner was there.
Yeah.
Those are the people that always fucking interested me because they work.
They had all the color.
Right? Because they work and you know what I mean?
They're usually the best. Listen, you tell me a movie that John Turturro's not the best person in the movie. You tell me a movie that Philip Seymour Hoffman's not the best person in the movie, right?
Yeah.
The thing is that it has nothing to do, I've just done a few leads and stuff that's coming out. It has nothing to do with that. It has to do with the system of it all, is that ego is the death of an artist.
Yeah,
it
100%.
is. It is easily the death of an artist. Once you're worried more about you externally than you are about the character you're playing, it's over. And there's in the star system that kind of we've created, there's so much more that goes with it than just the actual what's going on between action and cut. And when you get caught in that game, you talk about really a no-win game. I mean, we change stars like, it just constantly changes all the time. the careers that I love is like the Claude Rains, the John Casals, the people that have, the Carl Maldens, the ones that are there forever, you know, or then even the leads that were character actors, the aforementioned Betty Davis, and like the ones who are there, but they can slip into anything. And it's like, that's, to me, it's a marathon. You know, as a runner, I say it, that sprinting, you're out of breath. You know, so what would you rather have? And for me, I'd rather have a 50-year career that I could look back on and be really cool. And like, hey, that's cool. And I did this and I did that. Instead of that, I can only imagine, because I've been around a few, that incredible amount of pressure of, you know, that this has to succeed or it's your ass. Right. And it's like all the things we just mentioned, I would be, hey, what's the poster? What take are they using? What this? Like, if it's my ass, then fuck, I'm gonna have to be involved in every single process. That and then how do you even know if your decision is right? So it's like, I don't know. I just like acting too much, I guess, to ever to do that kind of thing. But who knows? I'm sure there's different parts of that.
Well, you know, yeah, and that's you know, another thing I love about you is the lack of pretense and the transparent enthusiasm. Like, what's wrong? I think Nick Cage said it years ago when he won his Academy Award for Leaving Las Vegas. He goes, "Hey guys, you know, I love acting. I'm not afraid to say it." You know, like
that's a good Nick Cage.
You know, it's like there's the lack,
and it's fucking honest, and it's why we love Nick Cage. It's because he fucking loves what he does.
Yeah.
You know, it was always my problem with Brando. It's like he didn't seem to like it.
No,
and it was
he
like
resented everybody.
Yeah, he resented it. He resented everyone. He resented this. He just happened to be great at it. It's like this tortured artist, you know, it's like fucking, you know, Van Gogh with the ear, right? It's like, fuck. And yet, you know, it's like he, you know, mutilated his own personality, but he was so good at what he did, right? And he said the only reason he did it was for money. Now,
which is such a disappointment to hear.
That was a lie, though, too, I think.
Yeah, of course it was. Of course, because he definitely loved it, because I know people, Perlman worked with him on Moreau, and he's like, he fucking loved actors and he loved people. So it's like, you know, I think that if you really love it, I love it because I love creating. To me, I've always said it's one step away from when I was playing with my action figures when I was a kid. Like, it's just 1 degree over where I would set up all these battle scenes with fucking He-Man, G.I. Joe to Transformers, and I would go into my own world, and it's like 1 degree removed from that. And of course I love that because it's creating. Now I can understand why people get upset and frustrated by it, because they feel out of control. And this is a very easy career to feel always out of control, never good enough, never content. Because again, as someone who started as an extra doing 3 jobs to get my fucking SAG card and did everything in between, I always was like, fuck, when is going to be like this? And when is going to be like that? When am I going to get this? And when am I going to get that? And how come I don't have that audition? How come I don't have this? But what I realized is that every day, if I was putting 1 foot in front of the other and 1 foot in front of the other, 1 foot in front of the other, eventually all those things happen.
Right.
You know what I mean? They all just start happening, and you don't even realize it because you're so focused on the next.
Yep. The least happiest I've ever been was when I got my first really massive big job, and it was The Dark Knight Rises. I was in New York. I was there for a few, you know, for really for the better part of a month. But and it occurred to me that I had bargained away, pleaded all my present moments for a future moment, which, you know, at that point was being in New York on The Dark Knight Rises, and thinking, this is it. You know what I mean?
No. It's only one of the greatest films ever made. Yeah.
but you know what I mean? Like how foolish it was for me to to attach so much happiness to some idea of making it when there is no, I mean,
there is none.
Not about the destination.
I mean, some people, they have a clear, you know, they got picked to do this, they became a star, but for most of it, it's a series of breaks. You know what I mean? Oh, that's
but again, remember, it's never, even if you have a clear destination, let's say it's to win a certain award, or let's say it's to be in a certain level of film, or if it's to be in a franchise of this and to be the lead, it's never enough because there's always people doing something else.
Right.
So it's like I've been on the phone or Zooms with like these, these directors who do these couple of $100 million movies, and they're like, man, I wish we could, when I saw Emily and it was this small $1 million movie or whatever, and they're like, man, I was so like, I just want to do stuff like that. And it's like, fuck. Then you go ask John, who directed that, and he's like, fuck, I wish I didn't have to worry about getting shut down every day. And
grass is always greener.
Grass always greener. So there's that old adage that they say, if you want to see an actor miserable, give them a job. And I love that one, because the way it goes is that the actor will call their agent, call their manager, call every 5 minutes and be like, what the fuck's going on? How come I'm not working? Why am I not working? What's going on? I'm not working. This is ridiculous. I should be working. The manager calls up and goes, hey, guess what? And he's like, what? I got you a job. And he's like, really? And he's like, yeah, films in Bulgaria. He's like, Bulgaria? How long? He's like, 3 weeks. 3 weeks. He's like, fuck. And so if you want, there's never happiness.
Yeah.
There's nothing they can say.
Yeah.
And I've always loved that, because it's so fucking true. It's like you're just always seeing something wrong.
Mm-hmm. Right. And unless you have a shifted perspective. But yeah. I love the fact that so Emily the Criminal, is this guy's name's John Patterson Ford?
John Patton Ford. Wow. He's got a lot to live up to.
That's quite a name, yeah.
Is he any relation? Any relation to John Ford?
No.
So first time, he's never made a narrative before this, right?
No, he did a short film. John's got such a phenomenal story. He's such a great dude. I can't wait to see him next week. He made a short film. It did gangbusters. Like, he went to Sundance. It was at the labs. He won all these awards, and he was like, fuck, here we go. This is it. 12 years later, he made Emily. You know what I mean? Like, and again, the short had nothing to do with Emily. The point is that he had to go, like, next thing you know, he's catering and trying to make money anyway, and, doing anything and script doctoring and doing whatever he can. And he just was under the assumption, with all these things that were occurring, like this was it. And it wasn't, because there is no rhyme or reason to this madness. So this was his first film. He wrote, directed, did everything. His buddy Jeff was the DP, my buddy now, Jeff Bierman. And Aubrey, John tells the story that he was out, at lunch with one of his buddies, and his buddy had read the script, and his buddy's like, hey, I have a connection to Aubrey Plaza. She would love this. And he's like, she's not right for this movie. And he was like, anybody's right for this movie. You're trying to get it made. And he's like, no,
get somebody.
Anybody's fucking right. You want to get your movie made. And, John was like, oh, I get, and then next thing you know, he meets with Aubrey, and then 2 years later it gets made, so it still takes time. So when they called me, it was like, I was doing this really bad movie in Atlanta, but I was having a blast on it. And I did, which I don't, well, I guess I've been doing it more, but I did like back-to-back films. So like I went from one film, this film in LA, to this film in Atlanta. And I just really wanted to get home and see the boys. And I really wanted to get back. And I was just like, so they called me up and they're like, hey, there's this little indie, and basically it's going to cost you money to do it. And I was like, I'm not doing that. And then they were like, so it was the first time my agent said to me, you're going to read the script tonight. And I was like, I'm not reading it. And he's like, you're going to read it tonight. I was like, I'm working at 4 a.m. He's like, you're going to fucking read it, or we're going to have a problem. And I was like, done.
Wow.
So I read it, and he was right. I read it in 35 minutes, like 36 minutes or something. I remember being like, fuck, because it's a 90-minute movie. Yeah. And I was on the Zoom with them the next night, and we did that for 2 days. And a few days later, I was wrapped and in LA. And we shot the movie in 20 days.
Fucking great movie.
So good.
Your scenes with Aubrey are so great.
Yeah. She's the best. She's like literally the most unique human being. You want to talk about free. She, that was the greatest thing that I think what really worked for us was, it's just about the scene. Like, it's like, what are we going to do here? Let's try this. Let's try that. You're bound by nothing. You're not bound by like how your hair looks, or how your makeup looks, or, this or that. You're just going.
Right.
And when you're in that mode, it's not like you can do no wrong, but like the camera realizes that you're just in it. And it's not about, I just worked on a really technical film, which is like, you have to be on this mark and you have to do this and you have to do that. And it's like, those are very different. They look amazing, right? This was more just like the relationship and this and that. So
there's such intricacies. And did John did you guys get it seems like a movie where you guys got opportunities to rehearse.
So I got to LA, I had blonde hair at the time, so I had to dye my hair back, and I had to this all happened really fast. And then we were at, what's the place next to Birds in Los Feliz? Not the ground there. The Citizens, Upright Citizens.
Yeah, UBC.
Yeah, we went there and we sat for 2 days, the three of us, and we just fucking went through everything. And we just talked and talked and talked. I think the most important thing of that was us hanging out, us eating together, us chilling out together, us getting to know one another. And then we
fall in love,
Yeah, we had to all fall in love with each other. And then Jeff came by, and then the makeup came by, and hair came by, everybody came by, and we all just kind of hung out and just sat around and bullshitted. But we became like, oh, this is just a small group of people. We all kind of fell in love with not just each other, but with what we were doing. And then it was, is there anything that sticks out that we see is like, this is going to be a tougher climb, or this is going to be this? And we talked through it, and then we just shot. And one of the things that I love is when you have the fire under your ass, where it's like, you got 1 take or 2 takes. Yeah. That's what you got. We're not going to be able to do this again. Or if we don't get this now, we're not going to get it.
Right.
I kind of love that, because that's life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
One shot.
One shot.
Yeah.
Did you know, Brendan, that every year President Obama comes out with a list of his favorite movies, and Emily the Criminal was on his list.
Crazy.
That's pretty good.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
So effectively, fucking
that's major.
President Obama.
I know.
Point and thought, fuck, this guy's great.
And he did really see it too.
Yeah.
We have it on Good Word that he actually watched it and liked it.
Oh,
and,
really?
Yeah, that it wasn't just like one of his people kind of put it on, that he actually did, because I don't know, Aubrey somehow now has a relationship with Biden because they're both from Delaware. And
oh, really?
This whole thing, yeah. And I just thought that's really cool. Again, you do things, good, bad, right, wrong. You do them and just hope people watch them.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
That's it. You just want someone to watch it, even if they go, wasn't for me, not for me. You want them to just watch it, because when it disappears into the ether, it's like, fuck, I kind of did all that and nobody saw it, And
most things disappear.
Yeah, it's so great to hear when it works out that way.
99% of things disappear.
Yeah. I'll tell you that one of the cooler scripts I read in the last 6 months is this Netflix script
Carry On
that you did. I'm sure you're limited at what you can talk about, but how was that?
Fucking unbelievable. Jama's nuts. I love him. It was an incredible experience. Definitely up there with Army of the Dead on the scope of a film. The only time I'd ever really been experienced, my experience like you had with Dark Knight and obviously Emancipation and other stuff, is these giant films, right? Where, Cloverfield was my first experience with that, where I was like, what the fuck this is enormous, so much bigger than me, so much bigger than everything that's happening. And Army of the Dead was like that, right? Because a lot of it was practical. Right. Carry On was very similar, where we had an entire airport, because in New Orleans, they just opened the brand new airport, and the old one is not abandoned. It's right next to it, but it's not used. The parking lot's used a little, but this entire airport is empty. They use it for events.
Right.
So we had the entire airport, and we redressed the entire airport.
Right.
And, it was my first time doing scenes with 900 and something extras and 4 cranes going, and you're the center of the scene, and you're like, what the fuck is happening? Unreal. And you go, people make movies like this? And it was just very cool to experience. And And again, I love Jama, Jason and Taryn and Sophie Carson and everybody that's on it is great. And it was one of those ones that I was in and out for months. So it was cool.
Yep. Yeah.
Really weird character.
Yeah.
Really weird dude. We created this weird.
Oh, I can't wait, man.
When's this one coming out?
December, I think.
Oh, nice.
Wow, man.
Because it's a Christmas film. It's kind of like it is. It's kind of
really?
I mean that where it's like, is Die Hard a Christmas film?
Yeah,
like
kind of sure it is.
Yeah. It's kind of fucking epic. And to be honest with you, I read this and I was like, good for Netflix, man.
That's
like,
cool.
Good for Netflix.
They're doing something real.
You know? Yeah, man. That's pretty spectacular. I love you're also just this really great podcaster, and I really enjoy the reviews. Is it what's it? Reaper reviews.
Kim, Reaper reviews.
And you and Kim seem to have such a good time. I have a little bit of a bone to pick with old Tig, if I may. And here we go. Okay, so you guys, I did an episode of Sons, right?
When?
In a season 1. Okay, and because I did an episode, I forget the name, but I play a role where I'm not
the Carney episode.
No, in terms of the narrative, I'm running drugs for the Nords. But as far as what you see, I'm Charlie Hunnam's going down the road. I'm a truck driver. I've gone through the window, and Charlie Hunnam is tasked with pulling me up. So when he pulls me, when he tries to save me, I wake up. I start screaming. Right now. Guy Ferland, fantastic director, someone that I love dearly. He says on no uncertain terms, he's like, when Charlie saves you and you become conscious, this will be the most excruciating pain that you've ever felt in your life. And I was like, all right, motherfucker, let it rip. I'm gonna go. So when I woke up, I'm like, this guttural thing, and when I of course, because I'm a total narcissist. I was like, I wonder what they said about my episode. And then I hear Kim Coates is like, man, and this actor, when they wake him up, he's screaming his fucking bloody head off. And I'm wondering, in the scene. And I'm like, why is he screaming? And it almost like he's like, what, was it a little too much? And my response to Kim, who I love dearly, was that was all Guy Ferland's direction.
I love that. I have to go back and listen to Kim. Kim fucking remembers the weirdest shit. I remember none of it. When we were doing it. And what's so interesting is he was always like with the club a lot more, in the beginning, I was like a guest star, and it was this kind of like, they can only give you certain episodes, and especially in season 1. And he remembers the strangest shit. I'm gonna tell him we're gonna pick that bone. Let's hit it. Let's pick that bone and pick it with him. He what an incredible he on that show. When I walked in, because like you're doing with your show here, when I walked in and he got recast, he came in, he was a recast of someone else when we did the original pilot, and him and Perlman weren't in the original pilot. So in the original pilot, Scott Glenn played Clay. Right. And Emilio, who played Alvarez, played Tick. Okay. So it was 2 totally different people. When they came back in, I remember just thinking when I saw Kim, I was like, this is the guy from fucking Waterworld. I was like losing my mind because I love that movie, as weird as that sounds. And then I was like, oh, and he's also in this, and he's also in that. And I remember thinking, like, I'd love to fucking be an actor like that. Like, that's fucking cool, right? Yeah. Yep. And,
by the way, same experience with Kim and Last Boy Scout when he's like, when Bruce is like, can I get a light? Oh yeah, give you a light. And then he
breaks his nose. And again, Kim, that was Kim's first big movie ever. And listen, I've learned so much from him. I've learned so much from Perlman. I've learned so much. I always say I learn a lot what to do and what not to do. But Kim is definitely the one that, like, he's had this career for, going on 40 something years. I can't go anywhere with him where people don't know who the fuck he is and know him from something. And he has such a great outlook on this business. Like, he just did this movie. We did one together where I got him in this movie. I begged him to be in it. And we had these 3 scenes together, and he taught me again. He's always teaching me something. He taught me again that how freeing he like to take chances. And he like between action and cut, this motherfucker would do things that I go, man, there is no page written that could anticipate what was coming in this scene. And he would just do these things and these little, you know, movements and these little like things with his eyes and laughs that you would go, fuck, none of that is written. And he just always surprise you. And then you go take two and it's completely different. And then you go take three. But what he would do is he would take what worked in like take one and bring it into take two. And then he'd take what take two. And then by take three, he's got this whole thing together. And you go, man, that's the way you do it. But he's not, you know, you and I have done this thing where you'll work with someone, they could do 17 takes and it's exactly the same every single time, which is cool. It's consistent. But at the same time, you're like, okay, maybe just try anything else, right? But it's like there's I guess the editor loves them, but like you want something. And with Kim, he's one of maybe 3, 4, 5 actors that I worked with where you never know what the fuck is gonna happen. And that danger transfers to the audience in a good and bad way. And what I mean in a bad way is like they're intrigued, like they get that like that firing thing off of like, what the fuck is this guy gonna do? And then in a good way, they're like, what the fuck is this guy gonna do? They love it.
Exciting.
Yeah, because I think that that's human nature, right? Is that whether you're playing, as they put on a page, a good guy or a bad guy, you never know. And the only way you can keep the audience inched up on the edge of their seat or the edge of their couch is that they never know what's going to come. If I can tell you in a lot of films exactly who the person is playing because of the first few scenes they do, I go, okay, well, here's what this is. But there's a danger in our favorite ones that even when they're playing sweethearts or whatever you want to call it, they're still dangerous. And I think that that is something that he's taught me over and over and over again. And some of my favorites, you know, the Gary Oldmans of the world, the Jeffrey Wrights of the world, that you go, there's a fucking danger. Kate Blanchett, you know, I just saw her at the brunch thing and I was like in awe watching her. And I met her and I'm like, she's so dangerous as an artist. And that's just, I guess, the goal is to be unpredictable.
Yeah. Which is, you know, I reached out to Theo a few months ago. You know, because I had done this thing and I had made these choices, and the final edit, you know, what I fought for, you know, I played this quote unquote villain, and you know, I fought for the humanity, which could only be revealed in a couple scenes. And I said, what do I do? And you were very kind to respond like, hey man, I hear you. I see you. You're 100% right. It's a bummer. All you can do is do your best.
That's all you can do.
That's
all you can do, because if you let this business upset you, you have to understand that it's not personal. That's the thing that is so hard, is that you think everything's personal and it's not. It's just not. There's so many other things. Like we just went through on, you know, casting, like I was calling certain friends for this film that I was doing. And I was just like, hey, you know, and there's only a certain few people that were right for these roles.
Sure.
But like it came down to even like who responded the fastest, who fucking read it the fast. It's not personal. It's just like, we got to move. Like we got things going on. And it's like, then, you know, someone calls 2 weeks later and goes, hey, I want to do it. And you go, no, that's gone. Like or your team didn't fucking give it to you. You know what I mean? Or this, it's like, there's so many things that have nothing to do with you. It has to do with the timing of the film. It has to do with the other person. It has to do with, it doesn't play into the narrative. There's 2 scenes that I shot in Emily the Criminal that I was like super bummed weren't in the movie. And then, so when John and I were at our first screening at the Dallas, first time I'd ever seen it live at the Dallas Film Festival, which is fucking years ago now, year and a half ago. I saw it and we went to dinner. It was just me and John there. And I said, fuck, did you take those 2 scenes out? And he goes, I'll tell you exactly why. He goes, the entire movie is done through her POV. And those 2 scenes she wasn't in. And if she's not in it, it takes the audience out of the movie.
Confusing, yeah.
It's confusing because the whole film is through her lens.
Yeah.
And in that scene with you in the hospital, in this scene, like it's not about her point of view of the picture, and it took us out. And I immediately was like, you're so fucking right. So again, while I loved what was done in them, it wasn't right for the film.
Yeah.
So I think that it was just another lesson where you go, that's not fucking, it's not up to you. And that's the same with anything that's going on in anything, is that you can't take any of it personal. A lot easier said than done, by the way.
It's so tricky, it seems like, for you guys, because the corporate star-driven business models in direct conflict with the actual art form and craft of it. And like, so you're fighting for good work to break through, but it's
it's business show. It ain't show business.
Exactly.
It's business show.
It's business show. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's the forever dance, but Theo, I heard you once say that, in an interview that, sometimes it's hard. Sometimes it's hard to like watch the actors or stars when they've kind of revealed themselves to be, a little bit of an asshole.
Yeah.
And I also heard you say, conversely, that when you really love someone, when you really like someone's cool, you root for them. You know what I mean?
Always.
And I want to just tell you that I was, before we started working on Squeeler, and when you're generous enough to lend your time, I had already had that moment where I was like taken with this new, I guess let's call it a second act. You know what I mean? Like this of your career. And I was really like, fuck yeah, man. I was receiving it, and I was just so I just want to grow, So I echo what you say, and I would have to say that I'm rooting for you, man, and I'm fucking happy, and I can't wait to see what you do next. And I can't just fucking enjoy this next weekend and relish it. And you're my new friend, and I love you, buddy. And I
love you too, man. Thanks.
I'm so grateful that you lent your time for this.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me on. And I think, listen, again, if you always think about the bigger picture of all this stuff, right, and all this stuff we talked about, this is such anybody who's an artist, whether it be an actor, a fucking painter, or you could even consider an artist, anybody who's doing anything outside the norm.
Yep.
One of the things that we all know that is so fucking hard is getting any type of information from anyone, or not just information, but inspiration. It's like you just want to feel that you're not completely alone in your search for this thing that is so elusive, and just to make something in this thing that you love. And I think things like this are so incredibly important because, like I said earlier, nobody fucking knows anything, but what they do know is that good things happen to good people, even if it doesn't feel like that sometimes. And that if you just keep doing you and keep taking chances and keep like trying and keep surrounding yourself with people who are in the same way, man, the possibilities are endless. So I love you, and I'm so appreciative to not just have you as a friend, but to watch your work, and that you're doing something like this. And Brendan, and like you guys doing this and having me on is really amazing. And I'm gonna enjoy this weekend. I've already found myself being like, what time's the flight? What the fuck is this? And it's like, you have to be careful,
right?
Because that's what we do. We find a way to sabotage our happiness all the time. And it's thanks for the reminder. It's duly noted. Man, I enjoy you both. Enjoy the rest of this day. And
all right. Thank you,
Thanks,
my brother.
Theo.
All right, man. Let's be in touch, brother.
Appreciate you guys.
All right. Bye, Theo.
Thanks, Theo.